Hey, 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 everyone. Welcome, welcome. I am back with a really interesting conversation today. So, just giving a few minutes for people to join. Hopefully, everybody's having a great week and excited about a good weekend as we now have cold weather outside in the DMV area. For those who are lucky enough to not have to deal with that, that's a blessing. And I hope you guys appreciate the warm weather that you're having. But here we getting a little bit on the chilly side. Today was on a cool side. Um, I wish the weather can stay just like that. Don't get any colder. But unfortunately, it is. It's going to get colder. I don't really like cold weather except for boots and coats and hats. That's really it. So I guess fashion. It's the only reason why I like the cold. Outside of that, can't stand it. So, anyways, I really hope you guys are having a great week and going into this weekend have some great plans. So just giving a few more minutes for people to join. And this conversation today is definitely dear at heart because there are so many people out here that I encounter on a day-to-day basis about firearms. And the conversations are interesting. I actually had one today. It's like, wow, well, it is what it is. So once you're joining, go ahead and jump in the chat and just say, hey, give me a hey, 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 something to let me know you're here so I can know I can get started with things. Love to see you guys in the comment section and be a part of the conversation because, again, this is all about community. Every time I'm going live, it's about community, making sure we come together to have conversations that needs to be had because the worst thing we can do is be silent about guns. It's not going to fix anything. It's not going to make anything better, and we all want things to be better. So what better way to do that is actually face the problem instead of ignoring the problem. So that word gun is really has a whole bunch of value and we need to discuss why. So today, hopefully we'll come up with some answers. Hopefully we'll come up with some solutions and going forward for future conversations. 'Cause honestly, I'm really getting sick and tired of this. Being judged just simply because I'm a firearm owner, being judged just because I happen to like guns, and it really sucks. It really does. Comment in the sections there and let me know in the chat if you guys feel the same way. Are you getting judged just because people know that you own firearms? Because really, that has definitely been one of the things that I constantly deal with. And I'm really getting annoyed by it at this point. And especially, and guns are a very political situation to talk about, and many things you could think about, racial even. And it really bothers my brain, especially when I have another Black person to judge me about being a firearm owner. I'm like, how could you possibly? I mean, obviously, these people don't know their history, so maybe that's why. So, the fear of the unknown is really something that is scary for many people. And so, we need to get known. We need to get hip. We need to be woke on this topic here. So, hey, Junior King, thanks so much. You can't say the word gun other than gun range. That's a fact. I even have to explain to people when I take my students to the range. Actually, two of my students today, I had to express this. They were very nervous about being in that environment. And I explained to them that you're probably safer at a gun range than you are at a Walmart. Let's face the facts. Most people going to the gun range are there to practice shooting guns. They're not thinking about hurting somebody at the range. They're thinking about practicing to shoot guns, whether it's for sport or whether it's for self defense. So, when it comes to those things, you really think about it. These people are coming at the range, they don't necessarily mean harm to anybody. They're just there to practice so that they can protect themselves or just purely have fun. I mean, for me, guns are therapeutic. I like going to the range because it's a stress reliever for me. And so that's my whole thing about it. That's what I like. It's my little piece of time to myself. All right. So I'm not sure what you're saying, John Stuckey, but thank you so much for joining. So let's just go ahead and jump into this honestly. First of all, hey, hey, hey to everyone out there. I am Mrs. Trouble, and I am a licensed firearm instructor in the DMV area. And this conversation as well as all conversations that I have on this channel, is really about making sure that we come together as a community to discuss the topics that deals with guns and how to help us move past the things that may have happened in the past, or resolve issues that are currently happening around firearms. And today, this conversation about the word gun and how it makes so many people uncomfortable. Let's really navigate that, really understand that space and help each other understand. You guys definitely put in the chat about things that help me. If I miss something, put it out there for me. But hey, Michael, thanks so much for joining. Hey, hey, hey. All right, so first up on the menu here for me, honestly, it's just really in exploring the word gun. And what I find to be crazy is if I say the word gun and I say children in the same sentence, people are like having a whole heart attack. If I say the word gun and I'm talking about the workplace, people have a whole problem about that. I mean, it's just, you can't even really say the word, like Junior King said, outside of saying gun range. And even with that, that's a problem. I mean, honestly, I was getting a ride today from someone, and they they ended up asking me something about guns because they were picking me up from the range, and they were like, "Oh, okay, so you shoot guns?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm an instructor." They were like, "Oh, so you have a gun like right now?" I was like, maybe. So I was like, and he was just like, well, yeah, I don't really like guns. And I was like, okay, to each his own. He's like, yeah, my wife doesn't really care about them either, but I actually don't mind rifles and or shotguns. He said, I think he said shotguns for home defense. And I was like, okay, cool. Well, still a gun. At the end of the day, it's one of those things you have to make those decisions for yourself, what really makes sense for you. And I've come to terms to just respect others about how they feel about guns. Even my own grandmother was concerned when I told her my husband and I were doing a business with firearm training, and she was very concerned about us doing training to people and um, providing training to people rather, and them being someone to do something bad with the gun. And I said, well, Grandma, like, we can't help what people decide to do with guns, but what we could do is educate them about being safe. Well, not exactly sure what just happened, but I'm back. Maybe I said the word gun too much. Maybe. But anyways, if you guys can hear me in the chat, please just give me a thumbs up so I know that you can hear me, and make sure everything is good here before I continue. Mm, okay. Yeah, someone just give me a thumbs up. Let me know that you can hear me in the chat. I just want to make sure that the sound is good, as I did just get a little disconnected here for whatever reason. I think this happened last week too. Maybe my Wi-Fi is acting crazy. Who knows? Okay. Maybe you guys can't hear me. I'll give it a few minutes to see if anybody can hear me. Give me a thumbs up, please, so I can know that you can hear me. All right. So definitely having this gun talk situation is definitely nerve-wracking for many people. At the end of the day, our experiences with guns are different. And that's one of the things I had to start to notice. So as I'm waiting to make sure that you guys can still hear me, just trying to stall for a few minutes. I see that I have a few people here. I don't know if you guys are still here or not, because the disconnection just happened. But okay. Let's see. Hmm, maybe not. I'm not sure what happened to the live, but I might just try to see about getting that back on for you guys. Yeah, I'm back now and I got disconnected. So if you're here in the chat and you can hear me, please just put something in the chat so I can know that. Okay, good. Just wanted to make sure. Cool. All right. So when it comes to this whole thing about, oh, I don't know what that is. Oh, something just came up, but okay. I see. All right. Let's see. I'm just gonna put a question out there for you guys. And I really hope today we get some people on that is against guns and they can give us some perspective of their opinion because I welcome it. Please do enlighten me. Okay, I'm just posting a question there. Okay. I'm not a fan. Thank you so much, Lynn, for your input and joining today. Maybe there's some things you can give us some perspective as we go through things, because honestly, we are all very different, and that's the problem. We need to approach this with some understanding, and we're not going to always agree, and that's okay. So I see that guns do make you feel uncomfortable. I hear you. Anybody else? Go ahead and put that in the chat as well. Like I said, there's been situations where I've dealt with people who, well, I ain't gonna say dealt with people, but had conversations with people who immediately judge me because they learned that I'm a firearm owner. And even today, getting a ride from someone and they were like, "Oh, you deal with guns?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm a firearm instructor." They was like, "So you have a gun right now?" I was like, "Maybe." And they were like, "Well, I don't really like guns." And I was like, "That's okay. That's to each his own. Everybody's different. I respect that." Just for me and my way of life, I don't feel like I'm ever going to be without one because I just feel like it's my security, it's my right, and I feel like I should definitely have one to be my first line of defense. Because the people who intend harm to me, they're not going to come to me with other stuff. They're going to come to me with a gun, most likely, and I need to be able to match their energy when it comes to that. So that's just where I am in that page. But again, everybody's different. There are other ways to defend yourself. Just know that sometimes you can't necessarily bring a knife to a gunfight. I'm just saying. So sometimes you have to get to that level when it comes to things. That's where my mind goes with things. And again, everybody's different. Enlighten me, Lynn. Maybe you have some other perspectives and some other ways of dealing with stuff. So Lynn said, if you need a gun, you need a safer area. It's okay for home defense, but not traveling with it. Hmm, okay. Good perspectives for you. I respect your opinion. Me personally, I feel like there's no area that's safe. When it comes to gun violence or violence in general, it doesn't have a particular area. It doesn't have a gender, it doesn't have a race. It's just, it can happen anywhere. And that's my thought process about it. So for me, I'd rather be on the defense, regardless if I'm at home or if I'm out and about. So I hope that even if you're out and about, that if you decide not to carry a gun while you're out and about, that you have some other forms of defending yourself. That's what I would hope for you. Because at the end of the day, people sometimes just mean us harm. And so just having those conversations with people, I've had stories with one of my students, many of my students to tell me different things. Like I knew somebody who actually ended up on suspension at work because they had a conversation about them going to the gun range, about them going through the process of getting their concealed carry permit. And I'm like, wow, the conversation was had. And because the conversation was had amongst a group of people who work together, somebody felt threatened. And so the person who was explaining this to the group of people ended up being on suspension for work until further notice, until they investigated what happened. And I was like, that really just taught me a lesson. That taught me a lesson about keep my mouth shut, now have those conversations with just anybody. And honestly, pick and choose those conversations you want to have with people about guns because people see you as a threat just having the conversation. The poor lady didn't even own a gun, and she was on suspension because somebody felt threatened because she goes to the shooting range. Like, come on, people. We got to do better than that. So, Michael, you said I carry every day, and people about to lose EBT. What you think about? Mm, yeah, that's another thing. So, guns has this whole thing about, I guess I should say, people in times of desperate times, people do crazy and weird things. And my thought process is I need to be prepared in case people and that's my thought process about it all. The whole EBT thing, it's a whole bunch of government assistant things that's going to have an effect to this government shutdown. I really just pray that it all starts to work out and it gets better because people get desperate in times of need, and the what they do is just people do things that you wouldn't think that they would do, or people do things that themselves wouldn't think that they would do when they're desperate, when they have families to feed, they got, kids and a wife or husband, and they need to be able to provide for their children and for their family. And so it becomes one of those things where it's like, okay, if things went crazy, and God forbid things went crazy and people started busting in people's doors and stuff, I bet those who don't believe in guns will wish they would have a gun then. I mean, there's certain times where certain measures, and it's too late already. It's too late if you haven't already started doing practice and feeling familiar and owning a firearm, it would already be too late. So that's why I think everybody should get some regular practice. And even just given the history of guns, the fact that guns are in every area of the world, they are, even places where people cannot conceal carry legally or carry legally, they are still a part of that country's history in some sort. When the guns were invented, it changed everything. It allowed for colonism, it allowed for capitalism, it allowed for rebellion and freedom all at once. And it's amazing the type of things that people do. I mean, even right now, the United States is barely touchable by any country because of the amount of guns that we have. Can you imagine the people another country trying to invade United States, and not even just the military, but the civilians protecting themselves? Like how much they will be up against? It's just crazy to think that somebody would even try it because the way that we live in the United States, the fact that we do own guns, the civilians do, and that's just one of those beautiful things that helps protect us all at once. Now, Drew, you said, I'm sorry, this is why you don't talk about guns at work. It's almost a threat, even talking about guns at work. And you're exactly right. It's similar to even saying the word bomb on a plane. Like, you cannot have that conversation at work because at the end of the day, people feel threatened. They feel threatened. I had a conversation with the lady who was a teacher. Gosh, she was a teacher, and I didn't know she was a teacher, but she was a teacher, and I had asked about her son doing firearm safety. We were advertising for an event that was for the families, and it was really focused on the youth to educate the youth. And of course, we can't do any training with youth without their parents being present. So I'm talking to her about this engagement about us educating the youth about firearms, and she was like, I don't even know why you would even do that. I'm a teacher and there's no way I would ever do that. And my son is never da 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 da. And I'm like looking at her son like, I'm sorry. I'm sorry I even mentioned this to your mom. I mean, she was totally offended that I even mentioned this to her. And my thought process about it was like looking at him and his buddies. He had like three other friends, it looks like, that was with him, and they're all like, "Oh yeah, this looks cool. I want to do this, da 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 da." And yeah, okay, I'm gonna go ahead and take this to my mom. Those kids were saying that they were going to take it to their dad and mom, but she was just like, "My son is not touching it." And that the thought I had in my mind was, little does she know, her son is already obviously interested in guns, but he would never talk to her about it, I'm sure, because of how close-minded she is about it. And it just got me thinking about those people who were raised with guns and those people who had never experienced guns. And, we have all these mass shootings at schools and everywhere, really. But just specifically thinking about the mass shootings at schools really has teachers on edge. That was the second encounter I had with the teacher. I also hosted an event with women. It was a women empowerment day, and one of my students was a female teacher, and she came. She said, I only came because my friends basically drugged me here. They dragged me here, rather, not drugs, sorry, dragged me here. And um I'm terribly afraid of guns. And this was shooting simulator. These was not actually real guns. And she was so nervous about being around the shooting simulator guns. Even so much so that when we got to the rifle, she left. She just left. She was like, I can't. It's just too much. And I was like, wow, guns really have people afraid, like to a point where they can't even function at a normal, just like, well, I wouldn't say normal, but an outing with their friends. It was too much for her to deal with. And it bothers me. So we got to do something about it, people. What can we do about this? Just let me know if you guys think about that in the history, seriously, or just thinking about that, like what could we possibly do in our communities to make things better, honestly. Len, you said, do your history guns was made by cowards for cowards, and you only feel like you need it because you know others have it. That's a fact. I mean, I wouldn't rebuttal that. I do feel like I need a gun because others have it. Yes. And the reason why I feel like I need that is because you're not about to come to me with a gun and I don't have a gun to protect myself or my family. There's no way you're going to overpower me when it comes to that area of my life, because history has definitely shown that, yeah, cowards handle guns and they tend to overpower others. That is why colonism took place. Capitalism takes place many times. Uh, Nowadays, they have other tactics of colonism and other capitalism tactics, but before we had the civilization that we know now, it was guns. Every single war, guns. Ever since the invention of guns, there were guns. I mean, anytime someone overthrown somebody, every time somebody won their freedom from somebody, since guns have been created, guns was a part of it. And that's the thing. Guns are definitely a very scary thing for many people. And I think it's honestly just boils down to the fact of what they represent. They represent freedom. At the same time, they represent rebellion. And that is very scary for the powers that be. So, that's just my take on it, honestly. And you guys let me know what you feel about that, honestly. I just really am curious. Is it any different than that? What do you think guns actually represent? Let me know in the chat box, honestly. So, Mike, you said, get armed and educated. Junior King, I bet she want the police to come to her house with a gun if someone broke in. That may be something right there. Many people do prefer that authorities, police officers, if you will, have firearms. And the thing is, it's amazing because it's the very same people who don't like guns that will want to have a police officer be armed to protect them. And my thought process is they're human beings just like you, and they have to make decisions to come and protect you. You have to make the phone call for somebody to come and protect you. What are you going to do until the time comes? And that's why I need a gun, because I need to know that I can be my first line of defense until I'm able to get some backup and some help. So those are things that really, stand out. But I mean, Lynn, there's no judgment. I just want you to know I pass no judgment to you. You deal with life the way you need to deal with life and how you feel is best, honestly. At the end of the day, there are systems put in place for people to be protected by the government, and sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. And that's just the way it is. So Lingy said police and military should own guns. That's it. This is not the Wild Wild West. I don't really think we ever really evolved from the Wild Wild West, but so much. I mean, I just think it is somewhat, it somewhat is the Wild Wild West in some ways. So I should be a mom, a teacher, and a gunslinger. Who really does that? I guess me. I guess me. My spare time today was going to a gun museum. I guess me. I have 4 kids and I own guns. And I will say I wasn't raised with guns. So my thought process as well, I really didn't give guns too much of a thought growing up. it wasn't until I got to be close to an adult, I started to think, okay, well, only police and the military and thugs have guns. I don't think I really thought about guns so much because in my neighborhood, people were just dying anyway from gun violence. So I guess that was the only thing that I had associated with guns. But I also, at the same time, because I heard guns so much going off, I never really, I guess I became desensitized, if you will. I wouldn't say that I developed a fear of them at all. I would say I was desensitized. I was used to hearing them. And so I guess for me, I never developed that sense of fear per se. And so, I mean, but everybody's different. Lynn, I would love to ask if you don't mind sharing. Did you have a dramatic experience? I'm not going to ask you what that experience is, but did you have a dramatic experience with firearms? You or a loved one that was, someone close to you? And that may be the reason why you feel the way you feel. Because lots of times I do find that students have that. They have loved ones that has either taken their own life or somebody else unalived their loved one by a firearm. And so now they just think firearms are the worst thing ever, and that sometimes could be it. So, no disrespect. I'm sure you're single. That's very manly. My husband and I and law enforcement protects me, so I don't have those worries. Well, I'm glad you brought that up, but I'm very happily married. Very happily married for a long time now, actually. So, I mean, honestly, you can see right here, Mr. and Mrs. Trouble. So, honestly, we are very happily married and we both do love firearms. And he is actually the reason why I even got into dealing with firearms in the first place. So, because he had a love for guns. And it's just one of those things that we share that common interest. And again, to each his own, no disrespect to you, no judgment to you either. And I just really appreciate you being here sharing your point of views because I still like to learn these things, what people feel, what they go through. At the end of the day, I'm curious, have you guys even noticed having conversations with people and seeing people be a little bit tensed about firearms? Like I'm really curious, did anybody have that experience? Because I know even today, like I said, I had that moment where the guy was like, "You do what?" And I was like, "Yeah, I teach people how to shoot guns." And he was like, "Oh, okay." Um, yeah, that makes people really nervous a lot of times, and I always boil it down to the fact of people having lack of knowledge or lack of experience being in the positive environment about firearms, because firearms does not always have to be negative. They can be positive. Just like my experience at the range, like I said, it's therapy for me. It's a stress reliever, and I go to the range and I just kind of zone out. It's a sport like any other sport, and that's for me. Again, everybody's gonna be different, and the thing is, there is a whole like careers for it. There are shooting competitions that is all over the world. People travel around, get to see and experience different areas of the world. They get to win trophies, they win money, all types of things like that for shooting competitions. And then if you like meat, what do you think? How do you think we even got meat from the beginning? I mean, now there's like slaughterhouses and stuff, and people go to stores. But if you want to be genuine and actually get things like thorough, you would need to go hunting. Hunting's not really for me. Haven't really tried it yet. Maybe one day. Just haven't really gave it too much of a thought, but I feel like I probably should know how to, just in case the world goes to crap and I do need to go get my own meat. So it's one of those things. So maybe I should learn how to hunt, just so I can say I know how to, in case my family does need that. But for me, I am totally fine with being a vegetarian. I don't need to have any type of animals, honestly. I'm okay with that. So, Mike, you said, Lynn, you the type that becomes a victim. You need to open your eyes unless you have housewife stuff. Okay, okay. I mean, again, everybody's entitled to their own opinion, Michael. Honestly, at the end of the day, she feels protected, and that's great. Her husband's obviously doing a great job. Law enforcement's doing a great job making Lynn feel safe. And you may just live in a really good community where people are supportive and protect. But that's not always the case. And I think coming from the area I came from, I don't care where I go, I don't feel safe. I mean, I feel okay being in more area in one area versus another, but I always feel like danger is just right around the corner, no matter what area I am in. I actually had a student to tell me something like that before, where she's like, "Oh, I'm in Tyson's corner. I don't really worry about things. Things are okay and kumbaya, basically." And I was like, "Didn't you just hear about that story about somebody's house being broken in and the robbers came to try to take everything? Like, you didn't just hear about that story in Tyson's corner? Like, things happen no matter what area you're in." And sometimes things escalate to be more dangerous when they tend to just rob. But instead, things escalate to be more. So things happen, honestly. Now, a lot of times we avoid conversations. Has any of us noticed that we avoid conversations with people about guns? Because I know that's probably like the best way to deal with some things sometime, especially if I know I'm talking to somebody who's so anti firearms. I might shy away from having that conversation because maybe I don't feel like it, or I'm not really I don't really care to debate with people. I'm more like, you feel how you feel, I feel like I feel okay. End of story. So it's one of those things where each person's gonna be just different and not just respect that, period. So Lynn, you said I'm a teacher and I teach around the world. I see other places in the world other than the United States. Okay. You said it, you don't feel safe. I pray your child well so you can move to a safe area. Well, my area is considered a safe area. I will put that out there for you. I come from an area that was not safe. I come from Southeast DC. But at the end of the day, I don't think it depend matters where I live in the world, period. And me, okay. So the powers that be doesn't want me to be here today. I have never got kicked out of this thing twice. So hopefully you guys can hear me. Let's see. So you should know why we need guns. Nations without a fair. Oh, for you. Yeah, so that's a good point, Drew. That's a good point. So, Lynn, you moving around the world and seeing how people live. I wonder if you ever paid or noticed any things that might be different, whereas maybe the government fully has control over this, or they dictate certain things, whereas here in the United States is more of a democracy versus a dictatorship. I wonder if you see some similarities or differences to how things are done. And even when I studied Australia taking away guns for civilians and the UK not having guns for civilians, how they still have uproars and people still have riots, and they constantly have violence problems where people are using knives. Mostly knives is a problem. And the thing about the knives is it's a primary tool for cooking. So you can't really take away all the knives, and not only that, you can go on Amazon and you can just say I'm 18 and over or 21 and over. I can't remember what the legal age was. And you can get the knife delivered to your home. So they still have problems of violence, even with guns being taken out of the situation. So taking guns away is not going to fix our problem, and just looking at those two places as case studies. So the problem is really the lack of education and people making improper decisions with it. The problem is the instability mentally that people have. The mass shootings that people have, I guarantee you, this is not your everyday person that cares about people or care about themselves, even that would go and shoot up a school. They have to be mentally ill to do something like that. That would go and shoot up a church. They have to be mentally ill. So we need to focus on our mental health situations because that's the real problem. There's another major problem with guns I'm going to get into in just a minute. So you guys stick around. Let me see what the comment says here. So you should know why you need guns. Nations. Okay, I heard that part. Drew, you said guns keep things even. That's a fact. Yes, I'm white, and I feel it's every law-abiding citizen right to protect themselves and not wait around for someone else to do so. Thank you so much for your input, Drew. The thing is, if you don't know already, Lynn and other people who don't believe in people having the Second Right Amendment to bear arms. Maybe you don't know the real reason why we have that in our Constitution. The reason we have that is so that people can protect themselves against a government that may go corrupt, against a government that is committing tyranny. And the thing is, we're living so close in those type of days today, many will say. Okay, I hope that it doesn't get to that point. At the end of the day, this guns is actually the only reason that's keeping my opinion, okay? Just so y'all know, this is my opinion. This is not a fact. And I didn't read this anywhere and come up with this conclusion. This is just me grabbing information from everywhere in my personal opinion. I believe that guns is the only thing that is keeping the United States citizens from being overthrown by our government in a way that is more relatable to a dictatorship, that's more related to um, them doing things to us that we don't want. And I think that's really the only reason, because they know there's many of us out there already armed and they can't take all these guns away. If they do, they can't because people are not going to give over their guns. They're just not. So thank goodness that we have something like the NRA, out there protecting us, and everybody out there being a law-abiding citizen, just at least going by the laws and everything. I do find it quite interesting that guns, along with so many other things, you can also break it down to racism. One of the things I found quite interesting was 1967, the Black Panthers stood in the capital of California with rifles. And when that was done, it was all like, oh no, they stood at the Capitol, or not the nation's capital, but the California Capitol, and they had rifles. These were black men with rifles, open carrying, exercising their Second Amendment right to open carry. At that time, they could legally open carry. And it was like, oh my gosh, these people realized that they could open carry, the same laws that they used to um, keep black people down, to, you know, commit violence towards black people. Now they had to change it up. That was an interesting fact to me. Then I noticed nowadays, here it was just what I think last year, neo-Nazi groups were doing protests. I don't know if they still are. They're doing marches out there, and I've seen some videos where they were out there with rifles. They were exercising their amendment right to open carry. I forget what state it was. I know it wasn't California, um, but they were open carrying, and the police was out there basically being security guards for them. There was civilians, there were citizens asking the police, why are you protecting them? Get them out of here. They mean us harm. And the people felt unsafe, and the people felt scared, because this is and when I say people, I mean the black people felt scared. They felt threatened, and they knew that those people meant them harm. But yet the police was actually protecting them versus making them leave as they walked down the streets with rifles in their hands. I mean, come on, you guys. It can't get no more racist than that. That's just really something's wrong with that picture. So it's things like that that happens with guns that I can see how people feel very uneasy about them. And I can understand people's different point of views, especially when you see all the negativity in the world about firearms, particularly here in the United States, the things that people do with firearms. I get it. I totally get it. But I do understand that guns are an equalizer, just like Drew said, it makes things even. I mean, you can't really come to a fight with somebody who has a gun and you don't. So these are things that we really have to have conversations about. Come to a peaceful conversation with people, understands people's thought views. Lynn, I appreciate your input here, honestly, because it gives me some perspective. It takes me out of my narrow-minded thought process and see the world from your eyes. The fact that you do have a husband that is protecting you. He is police, and that he does protect you. You come from a good community. You have a good community that is protecting you. And those are things that are all good. And I wish you the most and blessings to you and your family for that. I mean, others, I really wish that we had communities that we felt safe like that. I don't know what else to say as far as that. Besides, I just wish you the best, and I wish everyone here the best, honestly. The thing is, we do need to come to some understanding that guns are not necessarily the problem on their own. As I just pointed out to you guys, in nations where they can't have guns, they go to knives. In nations that they can't have this and that, they're going to find a way to harm people. So we need to be able to match that energy to protect ourselves so that we're not overthrown by things that mean us harm. And that's just really what I feel about that. So one thing we do need to do is equip our mind. First of all, knowledge is power. Make sure you guys are educated out there. Get with your local gun ranges and your gun companies that's training people. Get that education. If you guys are in the DMV area, call up Trouble Defense. DC, Maryland, Virginia area will welcome you to come and hang out with us at the range and get some practice, get some knowledge. If you don't want to go to the range, at least go to a class to get educated. Learn how you can protect your family, learn the laws around it, and things like that. Learn how to educate your children because we want to make sure that they're not making bad decisions as they grow up with guns because they're going to be exposed to it one way or another regardless if we want to or not. They are going to be exposed, and it's up to us to educate them about them. So, again, thank you guys so much for joining. And in closing, just remember fear fades when understanding grows. The only way we can change the conversation is by having it. So just wanted to leave you guys with that little piece of knowledge there. And before I go, Mike, let's see. You said my family don't like guns. I'm the only one. And you also said my goal is to educate American Hispanics on their rights. Most fear guns and don't understand that they have the right to carry. That's a fact. That's a fact. I mean, out of my family, not very many people carry. And we didn't even have conversations about guns until I became a firearm instructor, honestly. And it's weird because the neighborhood I grew up in, you would think, but no. No. And I think a part of it has to do with brainwashing. I think society has definitely brainwashed us to believe that guns are bad and that people should not have them, just a way of being able to have the government control us and us not be able to be free thinkers. That's my, again, personal opinion. Don't shoot me down for that, you guys. Are entitled to your own opinions. Just remember, you have your own brain. Get out there, get some knowledge. Get out there, have conversations. That's healthy conversations, not arguments or debates with people. Really listen and get their perspective, honestly, because that's the only way we're going to get through things. So hopefully I'll see you guys next week. Next week, I plan to continue the conversation with how can we do things in our community to help us get better knowledge, help us get a grip on this gun problem here. So hopefully see you guys next week. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Give that press that thumbs up button to the video as well so others can know that this video is worth looking at. And if you are watching this in repeat or record, please leave a comment. Let me know you were here. Let me know your questions and your opinions, and I'll take a look at those comments and reply as well. So see you guys next week.